On today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast, we have a special edition mailbag episode where I answer all of your guys' questions, such as, should the Detroit Pistons be interested in going after Kevin Durant? We'll talk about that today's episode, Locked On Pistons podcast. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I am your host, Ku Khahil. You can find me over on Twitter at Ku Khahil. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review. On whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on, there's another great way to support the podcast. And also, if you haven't already, head over to the Substack where we're having daily coverage of the Detroit Pistons for you as well. I'll link that down below. We just had an article breaking down the last game and broke down some of Ku Khail's turnovers, how they need to be cut down. Also, if you want to watch Pistons game with us every single game, you can join us at the Playback Room. I'll link that down below for you guys as well if you're interested in doing that. It's been a lot of fun. But I'll link both those things down in the description down below for you guys. In today's episode, we're going to be answering all the questions that you, the listener, sent in. Now, we're going to be starting off talking about Kevin Durant, potentially in Detroit. We'll talk about that. Also, a Duran extension, what could that look like? We'll answer that question. Also, how far could the Detroit Pistons get this season? We'll answer all those questions today and a bunch of other ones as well. But obviously, we're going to start off with what I said, Kevin Durant. Now, obviously, everyone knows there's been a lot of, it seems like Kevin Durant is 100% getting traded by the Phoenix Suns. This offseason, he was very nearly traded at the deadline, but he kind of stepped in and said, no, I ain't trying to get traded midseason. But I had two of you guys ask me underneath the tweet asking for the questions, should the Pistons go after Kevin Durant? So let's go ahead and keep this simple. The reason why this is even a conversation right now is because today there was a report that said, not the Detroit Pistons, but the Phoenix Suns, in order to trade Kevin Durant, they want 3 first-round picks and a young player. This is from Arizona's Republic, Dwayne Rankin. He reported, or no, that wasn't, that's the he was upset report. I believe actually it's from the same guy. Either way, it's been reported today that the Phoenix Suns are looking to trade him for 3 first-round picks and a young player. So, would the Pistons be interested in doing a trade like that? First of all, they are able to. I know that's one of the questions that people have been asking is that, is it even possible? It was Dwayne Rankin, by the way, yes. I want to make sure I source the right person. Yes, the Pistons will be able to trade 3 first-round picks this offseason because their protections are going to come off this first-round pick this offseason. It's going to go. It's not going to be in Detroit. Detroit's going to lose their first-round pick because they are going to finish ahead in the playoffs. They're not going to be in the top 13 protected. So they won't have access to this first-round pick this year, which means, while, yes, they lose this upcoming draft, the rest of their picks are now wide open. They have their 26th first round, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. All of those picks now are unlocked for the Detroit Pistons to trade. So if they wanted to go after Kevin Durant, could they do it? Yes, they could do it. They could offer 3, 4, 5 first-round picks if they wanted to. Do they have a young player to trade for Kevin Durant? I mean, yeah, they have quite a few. They have Ausar Thompson. They have Jaden Ivey. They have Jalen Duren. They have Ron Holland. They have a lot of guys. They have matching contracts they could trade to get Kevin Durant. Yeah, they have some matching contracts. They could trade Tobias. They could trade a THJ. They could trade maybe Stu if it takes that. Like, do they have what it takes if they really wanted to go get KD to get him? Yes. They should not do that. It doesn't make sense for Kevin Durant. It doesn't make sense for the Pistons. First of all, KD will be on an expiring $54 million contract or expiring contract, my goodness, next year for $54.7 million. It doesn't make any sense for the Detroit Pistons to go after an aging superstar at the age of 37, give up a lot of future capital, along with a young prospect for a guy for one season that very likely will not want to re-sign with the Detroit Pistons. I highly doubt he'd like to. I know he has a good relationship with Cade. I know we've caught him wearing a Detroit Tigers hat at times. That's all fun and all that cool stuff. But KD's at this point of his career where he wants to continue to win. He wants to win championships. While the Pistons are having a really good year this year, I don't think they're in a position where they should be making all-in moves like Kevin Durant for 1 year. Like, that's not where they're at yet. They're probably 2 years away from making, some real noise in the Eastern Conference unless they make some crazy moves this offseason. But trading for 37-year-old Kevin Durant for a lot of future capital and a young player just doesn't make any sense for the Pistons to do. For another team, maybe. But to be honest, I don't think this really makes sense for any team to do. We've watched KD do this now to 2 teams, and it hasn't worked out on either team. Giving up that kind of draft capital for a guy like Kevin Durant just hasn't really worked out, and especially for a team like the Pistons who don't already have like 3 other superstars or are trying to make a big 3 or anything. I don't really see how that makes sense. This isn't pushing them over Boston. This wouldn't push them over, I think, Cleveland. And again, I don't think KD would even want to come to Detroit. I don't think he would want to stay long-term. He's also getting to 37. I know he's playing great at this age, but betting on that kind of guy not that kind of guy. KD's fantastic. Let me not say that. Betting on someone at his age on an expiring deal, I just would not. I don't think anyone would feel comfortable about doing. So could the Pistons do it? To answer your guys' question, yes. Will they do it? No. It doesn't make much sense to, but yes, they are in a position now this offseason to really go make a splash move, which leads me to another question. I've got this one about 3 or 4 different people ask this one. Will the Pistons make a big move this offseason? So while I don't believe they're going to make a move for Kevin Durant, doesn't make much sense, they could make a big move this offseason for all the reasons I just said previously. Because they're losing their first-round pick this summer, they now have all of their first-round picks completely opened up for them. It's not partially protected. You have to trade the back end of it. No, it's the whole first-round pick. They're all free now. They're 26, they're 27, they're 28, 29, 30, 31, 30. All their first-round picks are available now this offseason, which is what you need when you want to go out and get a star. Now, are there some other young teams that have more draft capital? Yes. But are the Pistons in a position where they could go out and try and make a move for a star? Yes. They have young players. They have a Jaden Ivey, a Ron Holland, an Ausar Thompson, a Jalen Duran that they could move in a package deal like this. They have 3, 4, 5 first-round picks that they could send out in a deal like this. They could do that. They have some high-end contracts. They have some matching salaries that if they wanted to go make a move this offseason, they could do it. Do I think it's on the board? Yes. I don't really know who they would be targeting, though. But if there is, I would say this. If there was an offseason to see that kind of thing happening, I do think it could be this offseason because of multiple reasons. One, because of how great the team played this season, obviously. Because of how great Cade is right now. Thirdly, because of where it matches up with the salaries. Cade's extension kicks in this offseason. Next offseason, you're going to have to start paying on some other dude's extension, potentially Duran, Ivy, and then Ausar right after that. You have to start being mindful of these things. So if the Pistons wanted to make a move before in the first year of Cade's contract extension, and just in case this move didn't work, to be able to then run up a different version of this team by the end of Cade's rookie extension, and then also make this move while you have other rookie scale guys still on the team playing for cheap, I feel like it would make sense to go and make a move this offseason if that's something they wanted to do. They don't have to do it. They don't have to feel rushed in doing it. But they certainly can do it. And I do think they're in a position to do it if they want to. I don't know if they will, though. I know, actually, that we just saw some odds a few days ago that the Pistons were second in odds for Domantas Sabonis this offseason if he were to be traded. I would take Sabonis, but I don't really think I wouldn't give up like the farm for him. Sabonis is really good. He's a damn good player. I just question the fit a little bit. He's really good, actually. The more you think about it, he's really damn good. But I don't think he's someone you give up that kind of farm for. But either way, my point is that you're probably going to hear the Pistons in a lot of rumors this offseason because they are in a position now to where they have the assets to make a move. It could be Devin Booker. I know a lot of people have been talking about Devin Booker. If the Phoenix Suns really do blow it up, maybe they try to go after Book. I know the Houston Rockets. I think Houston is going to have the best deal for any player on the Suns because they own all of the Suns' first-round picks. Therefore, Suns cannot go into a rebuild because they don't have their own picks. They're going to be losing for no reason. So if they want to go into a rebuild, they have to get their picks back, and Houston has all of them. So I just don't see how anyone trades for a Devin Booker that isn't Houston, to be honest. I don't think it would make any sense if you're the GM of the Phoenix Suns to not trade with the Houston Rockets. And For what it's worth, the Phoenix Suns have made a bunch of stupid moves, to be honest, over the last few years with their new ownership, Matt Ishbia. They made a lot of dumb long-term moves and just trying to go at it now. So maybe they do it again. But I have to imagine if there's any semblance of IQ in that front office, if you're going to go to a rebuild, you need your picks back to do it. So we'll see. Overall point is, will they go after KD? No. Are they in a position to go after anybody? Yes, because they have the picks now and the salary matching to do it. So let me know in the comment section down below. If there is a star this offseason you want the Pistons to go after, let me know in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Ku Khahil who that is and what package it would look like for that player. And just remember, if you guys are going to go down there and say Devin Booker, I want you guys to go look at the picks that the Houston Rockets have and then come back to me and tell me if you think it's even possible for any team besides the Houston Rockets to get Devin Booker. I want you to look at that before you say Devin Booker in the comment section. Then let me know. But coming up, Jaylen Duren. What will his extension look like this upcoming offseason? We'll talk about that coming up. When I found out Skims was making underwear for men, I was intrigued. I've heard so much about their quality from friends and family, so I had to give it a try. Let me tell you, it lives up to the hype. I've always had issues with underwear, whether it be fit, comfort, or just find the right style for me. Skims changed all that. Their men's line offers something for everyone, from boxer briefs to classic briefs, all designed with the perfect balance of comfort and style. I've tried Skims and I'm hooked. I absolutely love them. These are perfect for my active lifestyle. They move with me, they never lose their shape, and stay in place all day long. Whether I'm working out or just running errands, they're the most comfortable and reliable underwear I've ever owned. Plus, the lightweight material feels amazing, almost like you're wearing nothing at all. Shop Skims Men's at skims.com/LockedOnNBA and Skims stores. Let them know we sent you after you place your order. Select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows at skims.com/LockedOnNBA or Skims stores. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. I'll link down below the Substack where we've been producing daily Pistons coverage. We just had I just wrote the game recap from this last game. I broke down Cade Cunningham's turnovers and how they had to get down and use some film. I'll link it down below if you guys want to check that out. We have a 50% off subscriptions for the rest of this month. And also, if you want to watch Pistons games with me and the rest of the Pistons fan base, I'll link the playback room down below as well, where you can join us for every Pistons game as well. All right, let's move on to the next questions. And the reason why I'm not shouting out specific people is because the questions we're starting off with are questions that were asked by multiple people. So I'm not going to shout out 10 people for the same question. So if you ask this question, just know I saw your question. I'm not ignoring you and not wanting to shout you out. It's because a lot of people asked the same question you did. And this one was, what's Jalen Duran's extension going to look like after how he's played the last few months? Now, we've talked about it a ton on the podcast about how great Jalen Duran has been. Jalen Duran, since the change of the new year, since Ausar Thompson was put into the starting lineup, he's been better defensively. He's been much better offensively. He's looked really damn good with the ball in his hands. You're seeing him get, more usage in the DHOs. You're seeing him get some inverted pick and rolls ran for him. He's been tremendous. And his connection with Cade in the pick and roll, everyone obviously knows how big time that is. Jalen Duran's been big time. He's been great. And at the beginning of the year, there was a legit question of, will Jalen Duran be traded? Will Jalen Duran make it to the offseason? In the offseason, will they move him? And then in January, it's completely done a 180 to where now it's 100% going to be extending him this offseason. What's the number going to look like? And the contract that I'm going to go to reference is Nick Claxton's contract. Nick Claxton signed a 4-year deal with the Brooklyn Nets this past offseason. And it's a de-escalating contract, which means it's going down in price each year. So it starts off at $27.5 to $25.5 to $23 million and $20 million. The average salary is around $25.5 million per year. So my guess is this. Duran is younger. If you want to argue Claxton's better, I'll let you, but Duran will say I'm averaging more stats. My stats look better. I have a great chemistry with the franchise player. I have more of an offensive game than Claxton. Claxton's better defensively, but I have a better offensive game. I deserve more than Nicholas Claxton. I think that's what Duran and his representatives will walk into the meeting and say, we want more than Claxton. So this is where it starts to get dicey. I think the Pistons are going to obviously want to extend Duren this offseason after how he's played. But do you want to pay Duren $30 million a year? I think Duren's been fantastic the last few months, but do I want to give him $30 million? That's a bit steep. That's a lot of money to be handing out. So I would love to be able to get away with paying him $25 million. I would be cool with that. If you give him for less than $25 million, that would be a fantastic deal. But I'm going to assume that his representatives are going to look at this Claxton contract and say the number starts at 25. That's what I'm going to assume it is. So I can't imagine the Pistons would even consider going over 30, but I think Duren starts at 25. So I think that the extension, in my opinion, if you're reading Claxton's contract and assuming that he's going to want more than Claxton, and assuming the Pistons won't go above 30, I think his extension will look like somewhere between $25 to $30 million a year. That's my assumption there. I think that makes the most sense. From Duren's side, I don't see why he would accept less than that. If I'm his agent, I wouldn't accept less than that. I would say that the bargain starts at 25, but I mean, we'll see what happens. But I do believe that it's going to fall between $25 and $30 million, especially if the rest of this year he continues to play like this, which he's been great for a while now. If he plays the rest of the year like this and then has a good playoff series too, yeah, I think the conversation starts at 25. All right, next question. This one's from Chuck. He asks, has Harris shown enough to go into next year as the starter? I'm leaning towards running it back and making moves once we see how the core kids are progressing. I think Tobias, if you're going into the next year with Tobias Harris as your starting 4, you're not like, you don't hate it. You're not freaking out over it. I think you have a ceiling in that regard. You are basically running it back in that you believe that just having Ivey back with Ausar, you will take another big jump, which we will see. I mean, they're on a 45-game win pace. We'll see if that actually does do it. I would prefer to go out and get an upgrade over Tobias and then move Tobias to Fontecchio's role and then move on from Tech this offseason. I think that would be the best move. I think that would be the most ideal move. I think a lot of fans would be happy with that outcome. But it certainly is on the board that Tobias just returns next year as a starting 4. And for how he's played the last month and a half, if he plays like that, I mean, you're fine with that. It's not like you're going to get worse, I don't believe. I don't think you'd get worse because of that. I just question how much better you'll get just by adding Ivey back and just keeping Tobias at the 4. I think you probably want some more two-way juice at that 4 position, and especially some offensive scoring from that 4 position. In isolation with the ball in their hands, because the Pistons really struggle with that right now. But yeah, I think it's on the board. Yeah, it's on the board that Tobias starts next year. I don't think it would be the worst case scenario, though it wouldn't be my first outcome that I'd want to have either. Next question is, does Ivey genuinely get his minutes back once he returns? This is from Fed on Twitter. Yes, this conversation is really... The whole conversation around Ivey is really frustrating to me. And you guys know this is coming from someone who is not, I'm not the biggest fan of Ivey. I'm not his biggest stan out here. But the whole conversation around Ivey, I think it's disingenuous on both sides of the bar, on both sides of the line. You have the people who say the team's better without Ivey, just get rid of him. I think that's wrong. And I think the people who are acting like, oh, well, you can't read anything into how the Pistons have played without Ivey. They have a weak schedule, blah, 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 blah. None of that matters. I also think that's wrong. I think people are just purposely being disingenuous because they have hidden agendas. I think the truth of the matter is this. Are the Pistons better with Ivey? Obviously. Does he have a pathway to having minutes once he returns? Obviously. He's taking THJ's minutes. It's clear. He's better than THJ. He's better with the ball in his hands than THJ. If he's not better than him defensively, they're both bad defensively. It's not like you're losing anything defensively with THJ. The only thing THJ may have on him is the movement shooting, but that's nowhere near enough to overdo or to make up everything else Ivey does. So yes, does Ivey have a pathway to minutes? Yes, very clearly. You give him THJ's minutes. Very clear. But for the other side of the argument, have we seen things in Ivey's absence that make you think long-term? Yes, you have. To act like you haven't is crazy. Would it make sense? Would it make more sense for the Pistons long-term to potentially view a pathway where it's Cade and Ausar, and the smallest guys on the floor is Cade at 6'6", 6'7", and now you have this kind of defensive versatility that they've had the last 2 months with Ausar, with Duren, and now you have two-way guys surrounding them. With that, with what you've seen defensively the last 2 months, does that sound enticing? Sure. Does that mean Ivy would have to go in that regard? No. And does that mean that's even the route that they would actually go? No. So I think the whole Ivy discussion is just very, I think, biased on both sides. And you can't have, something I've learned, you can't have an unbiased, normal conversation when it comes to Jaden Ivey. Because you either got his crazy stands who thinks he's the next coming of Dwayne Wade, or you have people who just straight up hate him and think if he comes back and plays any minutes, the team gets worse. Like, I don't understand why everyone's like this with Ivy. And this is coming from someone who people would label probably as an Ivy hater, I guess. But the team's obviously better with Ivy. If they had Ivy in place, they would start him instead of THJ, and they would be better because of it. It's not a question to me. So again, like I said, this whole conversation around Ivy is very, it's bordering annoying for me that people are acting like, oh, where would Ivy fit? You just give him THJ's minutes, dude. Like, it's very simple. We don't need to have a referendum on Ivy and his career and everything about Ivy every single day, every single time the Pistons win. The Pistons are playing well. Their defense is great. Again, does the way they've played make you think long-term about, man, what would it look like if Cade was the smallest guy on the floor and you had Ausar out there on the floor with Duren? Now you have two-way guys at the 3 and the 4, another two-way star. Like, how would that work versatility-wise defensively? Yeah, sure. That's definitely a thought that's popped into my head. But does it mean that, again, that's something that they're actually even going to do? And even if they did go down that route, Ivy would still have a role in this team. I don't get it. Let's just enjoy the team this year, enjoy how they're playing, and just stop talking about Ivy because people can't do it without losing their minds. So let me know in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Ku Khahil. How you guys feel about this? How you guys feel about Duren's extension number? What do you guys think he's going to command this offseason? And what do you think about Jaden Ivey's future with the Detroit Pistons? I think it's clear cut, but let me know in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Ku Khahil. When we come back, how far can the Detroit Pistons get this season in the playoffs? A lot of you guys asked this. We'll talk about it when we come back. Your home should reflect your style, and with Wayfair, it's easier than ever to make that happen. Whether you're looking for a simple refresh or tackling a big home project, Wayfair has everything you need in one place. Wayfair's huge selection makes it easy to find the perfect piece no matter your space or budget. From cozy furniture and stylish decor to kitchen essentials and outdoor must-haves, Wayfair has it all, and at prices that fit your budget. I was looking for a new rug to tie my living room together, and Wayfair had so many stylish options at great prices. The site made it simple to compare styles, and my order arrived fast with free delivery. I was surprised to find everything from storage solutions to patio decor, making it my full go-to for all things home. Head over to Wayfair.com and find something that's just your style today. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. Check out the Substack down below. Again, we have a 50% deal the rest of the month. Check out the Playback Room if you want to watch Pistons games with us. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate all of you guys' support. We're already at 150 subscribers over at the Substack. I really appreciate all of you guys. We're over 630 members at the Playback Room. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate all of you guys. Check it out down below. I'll link it for you guys. All right, next question. This one is from Blue Sky, where I am also trying to provide coverage over there. I see a lot of Pistons fans are over on Blue Sky instead of Twitter now, so I'm trying to provide it over there as well. But this one is from Stones Fan 13. He says, do you think there's a reason that Ausar has completely abandoned the short distance fadeaway he was so good at last year? I think what's going on with Ausar, I think the team has, I don't want to say they've told him to stop taking jumpers, but I think they've definitely encouraged him to just live at the rim more and just attack, slash to the rim, catch lobs, cut to the rim, finish dunks, finish layups at the rim, draw fouls. I think that's what they're really encouraging. I think Ausar is really liking that. He's played so good. He had a bad back end of this road trip, but he's played so good since January doing this exact thing. It's been over a month since I think he took a three. Was that step back he took 2 games ago a three? Or was his foot on the line? Either way, if it was a three or not, that was the only like outside jumper I remember him taking in the last over a month. Whether his foot was on the line or not, it was an outside shot. I think that I know Fred Vincent is still working with him every single day with his jumper. He's still putting a lot of work into his jumper. I think it's something you may see the Pistons try to have come out next season. But I think this season, with how well he's performing with the ball in his hands, playmaking, finishing at the rim, cutting, all that stuff, I think they've realized that putting him in the corner is not best for Ausar. It's not best for the team. Putting the ball in his hands, getting him involved in action, having him cutting, all that stuff, that's where Ausar is really impactful. So I think that's what they're just telling him to focus more on. And I think that makes sense. I think the win-loss record over the last few months speaks to that making sense as well. This question is from YouTube. This one's from Joseph. It says, this is the how far do you think the Pistons can go in the playoffs? So I think the absolute peak for the Detroit Pistons is the second round. I think any objective fan, any objective person in the Pistons community can say that. Is it likely they win a first-round series? No. Is it possible? Yes. I wouldn't rule it completely out, but are they going to be favorites? No. It's going to be extremely hard for them to win a first-round series. I think their best matchup, and this was another question that someone asked, I personally think their best matchup is either the Knicks or the Pacers. And I think they might be more confident against the Knicks because they've went into Madison Square Garden and beaten them twice already. The Pacers, I think that would be great for the NBA. But, we have to call a spade a spade. They've had the Pistons number the last few games. So, I think either one, though. I think either one of the Pistons could go in and force a Game 7. I think they could play really well. But after that, once they go against Cleveland or Boston, it's over with. They're not beating Cleveland or Boston. Either one is not happening. So I don't know if that's going to upset fans. I don't know if there's some fans out there that think that they could beat the Cleveland Cavaliers or the Boston Celtics. I'm sorry to break it to you. They can't. They're not going to. So the second round is their absolute peak. And I think the likely scenario is they win 2 games this upcoming playoffs, which would be an absolute, unquestionable, overwhelming success of a season if they did that. So, but yeah, I think their peak this year is definitely their peak is 100% the second round. This one is from Dope on YouTube. It says, which player has been your favorite to watch as of late? I always have fun watching Cade. I think Cade is just seeing how Cade's getting better and the way he's attacking the game differently. The ways in which he's scoring the ball right now are ways that he just wasn't going to at the beginning of the year. The beginning of the year, it was very, I guess the best way to say it is, it was more vanilla at the beginning of the year. Now you're starting to see him go to running hook shots. You're starting to see him get to the dotted line, go with a floater. You're starting to see him get to the dotted line, turn around, and go for a hook shot. You're starting to see him take step back, sideline jumpers more. You're starting to see him get more aggressive at the rim. You're starting to see him go for posters a lot more. You're starting to go with a lot of left-hand floaters. You're starting to see him go to different things. He's going to a lot of step-back threes. The arsenal, the amount of different shots he's going to and how he's getting to those shots, whether it be his incredible pace in the pick and roll, never getting sped up, keeping the drop big, constantly guessing so he can get to his spot that he wants to and go to whatever shot he likes. I think that's been the most fun to watch, just the different ways in which he's figuring out to score. The second best player, or not second best, but the second player I've had the most fun watching is obviously Ausar Thompson. I think he's been fantastic defensively, and the little flashes that he's giving you offensively. Like yesterday in the playback room when we were watching the game, Ausar had a turnover on possession because he lost the ball. And someone in the chat was like, man, what's up with Ausar's handle? One play, he's turned the ball over. The next play, he's giving you a highlight play. And sure enough, that play, one possession, he turns the ball over because he lost the ball. Then literally the very next possession, he gave, I forget who it was, but it was on the left sideline. He gave someone an in and out, tween, spin move, and then behind the back drive into a kick out. The flashes that he's giving you, it's not consistent yet with the ball, but you're seeing these flashes from him that I think are just incredibly fun to see. And yeah, I think Ausar has been number 2 for me for sure. Next question we got is, I just lost it. Oh, here you go. How did you see the team changing this offseason? This one's from Motown Roundball on Twitter. More development focus or bringing in a few impact veterans on the trade market. If I had to guess the most likely scenario, I think they just maybe not completely run it back, but for the most part, run it back with Ivey healthy. I think that's probably the most likely scenario. Again, like we mentioned earlier, I do see the pathway where they make moves and try to use these first-round picks that are now available to them to go make a bigger move. But I think the most likely one is they just run it back with Ivey. Maybe they upgrade from Tobias. I think at the very least they'll upgrade from Fontecchio. And then they just run it back with Ivey healthy. I think that's the most likely scenario. Next question. We got 2 more before we wrap it up, so we'll try to make this fast. This one's from Twitter as well. This is from J-Mon. He says, what adjustments does JB need to make come playoff time? I think the main thing is just putting the ball in someone else's hands besides Cade before half court. That has to happen. Teams in the playoffs are going to pressure Cade the entire length of the court because they know, and it's on the game plan, that he struggles with full court pressure, and he can give you a turnover or 2, maybe even more, when you pressure him like that for the entire game full court. So to have Ausar bring the ball up, to have even Tobias try to bring, to have these other guys, Schroeder, have these other guys bringing the ball up the court, I think will make it a lot easier on Cade, make it a lot harder on teams to pressure Cade and put all the focus on him until they get to the half court. So I think that's the main adjustment I'd love to see JB do more of. I mean, he's doing a little bit more of it lately, but I'd love to see it happen a lot more, especially with Ausar, like we were saying a few weeks ago. I think that's the main adjustment come playoff time. And the last question is from Steve on Twitter. Says, who do you think will be the Pistons' number 2 scoring option when they truly start to contend? Do you think it's going to be Ivey or Ausar, or are they not on this team yet? I think the most likely scenario is that it's not on this team yet. I definitely don't think, even at Ausar's peak, he's going to be like a number 2 scoring option. I don't think that's what is in Ausar's. If Ausar hits his peak and he's going to be an all-star, which I think is possible, I don't think he's making the all-star team as some crazy scorer. That's not what Ausar's doing. I think Ausar is going to be if his peak version is like a peak Andre Iguodala type. And that's a damn good player. Don't get confused. That's an all-star level player. That's an insane player. But I don't think he's ever going to be someone you're asking to score 20 plus a game. I don't think that's Ausar's future. I don't think it's going to be Ivey either. I think their number 2 scoring option is not yet on the team. I think their number 2 scoring option is going to be the guy they eventually trade for at some point when they're contending. That's my guess. I think the most likely scenario is it's not on the roster yet. But yeah, I think that's all the questions unless I missed one. Let me just run them back in case I skipped one. Yeah, I think that's all the questions we had. Thank you guys for sending all the questions. And if you guys want to be a part of the next mailbag, you guys can comment down below, hashtag Ku's mailbag, or over on Twitter. I'll make sure I'll hold on to it for the next mailbag. We are having a mailbag article every Wednesday on the Substack. If you join the Substack, you go in our chat room where we have everyone just talking Pistons basketball. Every Tuesday, I take questions for a mailbag article on Wednesday. So if you want to be a part of that one, that's going to be tomorrow. Join the Substack down below, click the link, and go into the chat and ask the question that you'd like to have answered. But that's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe out there. Till next time, peace out.